Just with your offense, what are the keys this weekend, especially with a team that's been stingy against the run? And
yeah, look, I think early down efficiency is important. I think this is a team that, it's a penetrating one-gap defense. They play hard. They play fast to the ball. You can see it on tape. You can see D'Amico's you can just feel the energy that they play with, and that's a result of their coaching and the talent that they have. Sheldon Rankins, he was a first-round pick of ours in New Orleans, and they have a number of good players. So I think being good on early downs is important. I mean, there's a handful of keys, but it is a team that if they get you behind the chains in long yardage situations, it becomes more and more problematic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Javonte Williams was saying he's kind of looking at this almost like a playoff game. Is this almost maybe even like 2 games because you guys have the same record and the tiebreaker is at stake?
Yeah, but it's 1 game, meaning we have 6 of them here. When we add up the units at the end, look, both teams are 6-5. Both teams are in the AFC, but you got to prepare to play a game. You got to prepare to play your best game, and the further we play and the longer we get into the end of the season, each week will present scenarios. But it's a good team. It's a team that has played well this year, and they're playing with confidence.
Coach, Vance Joseph said he thinks Pat Surtain should have a little bit more arrogance to his game. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I like his game. It's his personality, and I think that one of the things you just see from him, and you feel like there's a personality each guy plays with, and I kind of like his game. I think it's not something that I think a lot about.
Coach, you said at the beginning of the year the best teams are player-led teams. I guess, have you seen that from this group, and how important is that?
Generally, what I meant by that was when you get going, it's their team. We're all a part of it, but this season, the players begin to hold each other accountable. They begin to play for each other. That's one of the great traits that you see is when they don't want to let each other down in their play, and I think that's a really good trait for any team to have.
Sean Will was named AFC Special Teams Player of the Month yesterday. Kind of how has he settled in over the last few months and gotten kind of in a groove here after those years in New Orleans?
I think he's doing well. Obviously he's made some big kicks for us, and has been in some big spots, and I think that it'll be a little bit different now. We're getting ready to hit a stretch where there's going to be 4 indoor games, where Houston's one of them, then it's LA, Detroit, then obviously we finish in Vegas. But I think he's doing a good job, and I'm glad we have him.
Sean, I know running game is not an all-11 operation, but what did you like specifically from what Samaje did that kind of gives you, confidence in where he's going right now?
He's versatile. He's one of those guys that I think it's a good trait. I felt like we saw it in Cincinnati. He's playing on third down. He's playing when the other player's out. He's under center, in their base game plan. He's in the gun, protection. He does a lot of things well. And at a position where there's oftentimes a lot of attrition, I've had backs a little bit like him. Pierre Thomas was one that comes to mind that did just a lot of things really well. Real good teammate, smart, and functioned as a number 1 runner. Functioned in a lot of different roles, and I think we're seeing that from Samaje.
Just on Stroud. He leads the league at explosive plays. I'm curious, in your time working with quarterbacks, is that because he's a confident young guy, or can you create that?
Well, it's hard to create it if you don't have it. I would say it's a credit to CJ first. His career at Ohio State, he's a successful player, and then into the NFL. And then what you come into, you can't control sometimes. And he's come into a new staff, and D'Amico and those guys have done a great job. But sometimes it's one of the challenges if you're taking that early, what are you coming into? And credit Houston for providing that into effect, that offense that is surrounded with some other players and man, they're playing with confidence. Sometimes if you come into the wrong place or operation, that can hamper your growth. But to his credit and to their credit, when you get both of them that fit, you get the player and then you get the scheme and you get the confidence of young players playing well. You kind of get what they have right now. And you see it, you feel it when you watch him play. You don't feel young by any means when you watch him. You don't feel a young player. You feel a confident, talented player who's seeing the field well. So there's a lot of things that they've done well and that he's done well, but it's a good fit.
With all these indoor games, will there be regular indoor practices from now on?
Yeah, periodically. We were, this week we got one or two. It depends on how the week is weather-wise, but, we'll usually come in here once a week. We got a nice facility. So, yeah.
With young quarterbacks, you just talked about Stroud. Typically, you're not worried that they're going to go over the top or the explosives. Is it the opposite with him that you want to force?
Well, listen, I made this comment. This is, in 17, we were young in New Orleans with a draft of Kamara and a bunch of guys, and we got going. And I think that you see this team, playing. I don't want to say carefree, but they're playing with confidence that they've earned in some games. They've come back. Tampa Bay. I mean, you go through the schedule, and when they've been in a position where they needed to score, they did. And so, I've said this before: when you do that and you do it once, you do it again, then pretty soon you believe you're going to do it every time. And so, it starts with their head coach and their staff, and then it carries through the players. And so. It's unusual what he's accomplishing as a rookie. That's not normal. In other words, it's hard to project that. If you looked at the history of our league, there haven't been a lot of first-year starters, rookies, that have had that type of early success. And again, there's a lot of credit goes to CJ and the coaches, but it's not something you see all the time.
Jerry Jeudy popped up on the injured list. Brandon Johnson designated. So just your thoughts on having then your 5 core receivers Sunday.
Yeah, but I'm all for having our 5 receivers, but I'm not announcing who's playing Sunday. In other words, Jerry had a good practice today. We'll see where we're at.
And Brandon,
we'll see where we're at.
Okay.
All good.